there.
What?
That table, or no, no, you can work at this table. Yeah. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. All right. Good morning, folks. I hope everyone had a great weekend. It's Monday. Start of a brand new week. A whole lot of things to learn, a whole lot of stuff to get through this week. So we are going to get down to it. Last class, prepped a bunch of panels. We glued them up the day before. Then last class, we scraped all the glue off, finished up the surfaces, giving us some nice panels. So I have two that are made up of 1x6s. Those are going to be for seat leg duty. And then two panels. We have a 1x6 and a 1x4 here. And those are going to be for the armrests. We didn't need to use two 6x6s. Our 6 on here is fine. And anything extra over that is going to be weightful. So we don't need to waste any material. Like smaller material, which ultimately saves us some money as well. As you go up with the board, the 1x6 are more expensive than the 1x4, more expensive than the 1x3, more expensive by the 1x2, right? So as we go up in size, the expense increases. Saving some money, never a bad thing. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here is how to select the best pieces for layout. We have our armrest here. We're going to start with our armrest. And we just got to take a look at our board and figure out where we want to position that piece. We're looking at this board here. And as we can see, sorry, I'm just going to close this one box here. I got to. There we go. So we got this board here. As we can see, we got some knots over here. This is nice and tight, though it's not a loose knot. We have a few other ones as well. Now, if this was a structural piece, a piece that really took a lot of weight, like say the seat leg B, we wouldn't want to have too many knots incorporated into our piece. With armrest H, it isn't going to take as much weight. It may see some stress when someone leaning on it to sit down, but a small knot in the middle of that piece is not going to be enough to basically compromise the structural integrity of that wood. Some big words for this morning, but yeah. So we're going to trace out the armrest on here, and then we're going to trace out a seat leg on another piece. We're going to talk about templates for a minute. I'm just going to grab one of those though. So here's one of the templates. It's a little rough. It needs some use. Paper's curling off a bit. These originally start out as a paper template. What we did is we cut them up and we glued them to backing boards just to make them more useful. Easier for use, easier or longer durability, and it's just going to last longer. So that's why we've done this. And on these armrests, we have our edges. We got a bunch of information. Some symbols we'll talk about here. So we've got some information written on here, and this is going to do or relate to the placement of an armrest support, the hand tools project that you guys created. So that is something that's going to happen there. We got a little symbol here. It says we're going to router this edge, and this is going to be the top side. We got a couple holes in the back we're going to drill. Those are outlined right there. We're going to talk about those a little bit more at a later date. I just want to make you guys aware of the different things on here. So once we trace this out, there is still some more work we have to do to these pieces, but we will do that after we cut these pieces. So this here, I've got my new board, and these are both set up as the top sides are the good sides, and they're the pieces that I want my arms to rest on when I am sitting in the chair. So I can't just take this piece and trace it out twice. What I actually need to do is flip it over on this piece to make a pair. Now let's think about shoes or gloves. If you got two left-hand shoes, it's not going to be very comfortable, is it? This is not right. Yes, your feet are covered. Yes, they are shoes, but it's just not right. So we need to make things in pairs. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to have a left and a right. So with this one, I'm going to trace it out this way, paper side up. And the next one, I'm going to trace paper side down. And that's going to give me a matching pair. We're going to do the same thing with these seat lights. So let's get to doing some tracing. So what I like to try and do is line up this back edge here with the back edge of this. Saves me just a little bit of cutting, which is always kind of nice. And you know, things look decent there, but I don't really like the orientation of this board. I'll spin the board 180 degrees and see if I like that anymore. That is a little bit better overall. I do have a knot in the middle of my armrest, but it shouldn't be too detrimental. So we're going to take our nice sharp pencil. Always keep a sharp pencil. We're going to trace this out. Hold it down, trace around that nice board. This will be much more difficult to do with just paper. So that's why these backing boards are great. So I've got one traced out on there. Hope you guys can see it. Probably not from there. We're going to do the other as well. And we're going to flip this board. So that is going to give us that nice pair. What I'm going to do here, since I know this is the top, I'm going to put a T on that one. So being able to identify your sides is very important. Left, right, top, bottom, however you decide to mark them. What I do is I always mark my top side. That's my show side, that's the side I want everyone to see. So when people are looking at it, they can see that you've made some good choices, put the nice material on the top. So second one's cut out, put a T there. We set both of these aside for a second. And then we're going to trace out this one here. So what I'm going to do is arrange this on here. So the consideration for this one, structural component. We're going to take some weight on this, right? Especially if you have a hard day of online school and just plop down into your chair. You don't want to, break it in half, fall through it, because we placed a knot in the middle of an important structural piece. Also, when it comes to structural integrity, there's something on this template I want to show you. It's hard to see, but you can see all these horizontal lines right through there. So that indicates grain pattern. Now that has to match up with the grain that we have on our wood. And on our wood, as you can see, the grain is running horizontally. So we want to match that to that. Horizontal grain is strong, especially when you're putting compressive force on it. So if we have our seat light here and we got our grain running the proper way, what we can do is it can take force this way, a push force on it, no problem. Because we're going to have our front leg right here, you're going to sit in this and it'll take that without any issue. If you had your grain running vertically, that would split. Just like when you see chunks of firewood being split or kindling and it splits apart real easy, that's because they're cutting with the grain. They're separating those individual bits. Same thing would happen if you cut or you made this with the grain vertical. You would sit in it and it would just split right up there, no problem, and it'd be a useless piece. So knowing how to orient the grain is very important. These templates are nice because the important piece is to show you which grain or which way the grain is going to run. So we're going to follow that with this one here, and we're going to draw this out. Let's trace this piece. good here. I like it. I don't have any major knots in there. My grain is pretty darn close to how the square is running. So we're going to do that. One thing I'll have you guys know, and I'll show you in just a second when I'm done marking this out. That there are some flat spots on this that we really need to pay attention to. So hopefully you guys can see that. What I've done is I've traced out the front end, and here, 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 and here, all the way up to here are straight cuts. This is so our seat slats sit on there quite nicely, and they have a good place to sit. So I put 2 slats here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and that creates that rounded section for the front. If we round these over, then the seat slats won't sit flat on them. So that's important to keep those nice and square, and that's why I've marked these corners out. So it can tell me that from point A to B is straight, B to C, C to D, D to E, whatever it may be, however you guys want to work in your head. But that is the important thing with this piece here. So the rest of it I've got marked out. You guys can see I don't have any major knots in there. And what we're going to do is we are going to change the way this camera is facing. And we're going to go to the bandsaw. And I'm going to cut one of these for you. And hopefully everything goes well. All right, so success so far. I didn't dump my laptop off the stool. Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna grab that leg we're talking about, and we're gonna start the cutting process. A couple things I want to explain in the cutting process, but we'll get to that right away here, and we'll get it cut out for you guys and show you how that looks. So we got the board here, and let's see the template. You can see it's on there. Long curved cut. Now, we've always been taught on bandsaws to use relief cuts or curved cuts. That is a great thing, and yes, we should use relief cuts for curved cuts. But this cut has such a big radius, such a big arc, that it isn't going to stress the blade in a way where we need to start thinking about relief cuts. We start here at the bottom, we do one clean cut all the way to the top. There will be no stress on that blade. It is not going to be enough or tight enough of a curve to put any deflection in it, really. So that is great. Same is going to apply for up here on this outside. We won't need a cut for that. I will do this part, the top part in sections, because you can't really just cut, turn the blade, cut, turn the blade. It doesn't work that way. We don't want to put that twist in there. So I'm going to cut multiple pieces off to create that top section. And then we will do some nice long cuts here and here. And hopefully I should have a project that looks pretty decent by the end. Tip with these. So areas like this one here that we know we're getting rid of, this big one, or just any cutting in general with the bandsaw. What I like to do is, some of us aren't the best on these. I am okay, I'm not great, but I've done enough of these to be pretty confident my cuts can be fairly accurate. What I still do to save myself pain and misery is I cut on the outside of my line, just slightly on the outside of my pencil line. So on my scrap side, not the inside of my material, the stuff I want to keep, but I cut on the scrap side, the stuff we're going to discard. The reason for that is, if I cut just on the outside of that slightly, and I've got just a bit of wood on this side, it's way easier to sand that off and get rid of it than try and cut exactly on the line. So that shaper, the orbital spindle sander, is what we're going to talk about tomorrow, as well as a stationary sander shaper. We'll use that to create all of our nice finished surfaces on here. But when cutting pieces like this, so cut on the scrap side of your line and then sand to your line. That's going to give you a perfect end dimension. If you cut your line to start with and then you sand in, you're actually going to be a little smaller than you want. And that could affect the outcome of the project. So let's start cutting this. We got our safety glasses, we got everything. I'm going to get rid of my ring and then we'll do that for you guys. With this sander, I want you guys to keep your hands, try and keep them 4 inches away from the blade. The minimum I think is at least 2 inches, but you know, the farther the better here. We're not working with something super small. We don't need ourselves in that zone. So I usually keep one hand near the front for a guide and one hand as a driving hand and the steering hand at the back. You guys will see that as I do a little bit of this here. But let's get to cutting. That's what we're here for. So let's fire this up. This one is not hooked to an extractor, so I'm not going to hook it up. But yeah, so we will cut this. One thing I want to talk about is when you're done cutting this, you've got your piece, you're all completed, you've shut the machine off, and you're ready to go back to your table and start working. Let's not head back to our table right away. With these machines, as I've demonstrated in the past, they rotate for a long time after we hit the stop button. So if you are not directly handing that machine off to another person and telling them that that blade is still rotating, the last thing we should do is stay at the machine until that blade stops. And once it stops, we can then leave. Otherwise, I don't want you guys leaving that machine with the blade rotating. You can barely even hear it. And when the shop is on and it's loud, you know, you won't hear that blade. And also, it's hard to tell if that blade's actually moving. It looks pretty much the same when it's moving as it does when it's stationary. So that could be a real hazard to classmates or anybody in the room, actually. So let's not leave the saw when it's rotating. We'll wait till it's stopped completely, and then we'll carry on. It takes a few seconds, yes. Is it going to be the make or break on a project? I don't think so. So we'll take that time to make sure that blade is stopped. So let's cut this out. So I'm going to turn the saw on here down the bottom. Cut out the key first. Hopefully one nice long cut. Oh, one piece done. So now we're going to work on the top section. We're going to do it piece by piece by piece. And now we'll cut this curve and then the back curve. So there we go. I did this fairly quick. I have done a few of these, so I don't expect you guys to do that quick, but we're able to cut it out quite nicely, and looks pretty good. There's a couple little inconsistencies. A couple at the top here. We're going to use a stationary sander and shaper to take care of those in tomorrow's class. So I'm not really too concerned. As long as I'm not cutting way inside the line, any weird, wobbles, overall, pretty straight, pretty close to where I want it to be. I can see my line in a lot of places. I have cut my line in a couple of spots. It happens, but that's that. What we're gonna do is we're quickly gonna cut an arm as well, and and then tomorrow's class, what we'll do is we will shape these all up nice and start working on some other pieces. So here I've got the arm. This is one with a big knot in the middle of it, but should be fine. If it is going to affect us, I will end up making another piece. But yeah, we'll start by cutting this off here and then cutting a long side, I think, try this long outside. And what I might do is, since this is a little tight here, I'm going to put a couple of relief cuts here, just so when I'm finishing up, that this stuff is taken care of and I'm not putting too much tension on the blade. So let's do that. Okay, so we have that top line cut there, and now we're going to move down this long outside to one shot. What I've done here is typically section on the end here, and this is going to be kind of going to highlight what we do tomorrow. As you see the rest of it, I've cut quite close to the line, kind of right where I want it. I do leave a little bit up here. We'll get that with the shaper tomorrow. Now we got to cut out the inside section. So we'll cut this out here. I'll take that out in one piece. and then this big curve here to finish out the arm, and we should be good for today. So follow that cut quite nicely. And now we just gotta do that, and we are done. So we got that cut out right where we want it. That's pretty good. Obviously, this corner is going to need just a little bit of work. That's with the paper. Same with this corner. Down here, I left that kind of gross chunk for you guys. You can see my line there, and I've come nowhere near it. But that's going to highlight the shaper tomorrow for you. And the rest of it's all pretty darn close to the line, right where we want it. So we will basically work on that lesson tomorrow. So for you guys, I just want to say, thank you much for tuning in again. I've got 15 of you here this morning, so please drop your name in the chat for attendance purposes. We'll get that taken care of. And then, yeah, we're gonna, rock and roll with this pretty quick. These legs, I always like to spend a little more time on the legs and arms, just kind of show the processes. And then when it comes to like the C slat and stuff like that, we're just gonna move them real quick. I'll cut out one, but I'll probably have like the rest of them all cut out already. And we'll cut out the back pieces, all those different things. We got a few weeks before, a couple weeks before holidays yet. We are getting close though, so I want to make sure we stay on track and on time. If you guys could stay on track with the quizzes, the daily quizzes, that is kind of really important. So I gave you guys that tough test on Friday. Sorry about that. But it's pretty important, pretty relevant to what's going on and what's happening. So today's quiz, a little more straightforward, should already be open for you, and I should have covered all the information in this video. I am going to upload this video to YouTube and then put it into D2L. So you will have one to reference if, say, you weren't able to attend the class this morning. So once again, thank you much, guys. It's going to be moving quick from here on out, but it's going to be fun. We're going to have some pairs whipped up quickly, and hopefully have a few packages for you guys to put together when you guys get back too. Thank you much. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I am going to be here for about 15 minutes. What I am